The principle of freedom of speech is often seen as a cornerstone of modern democracy, but its origins lie much further back in history. So let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. In classical Athens, citizens valued parrhesia, the right to speak openly in the assembly. Unsurprisingly, it was a right that did not extend to everyone. It was a privilege that excluded women, slaves and foreigners, but it did set an important early precedent. The Romans too held libertas, political liberty that allowed a degree of free expression in public life and in the Senate, though this freedom often shrank when emperors felt their authority was under threat, although an early principle was maintained. With the spread of Christianity, speech and expression became bound up with questions of religious authority. Preaching the gospel was defended as a moral duty, but the Church also brutally clamped down on dissent and heresy. In the Middle Ages, monarchs and religious leaders exerted strict control over what could be said or published, though some writers, such as John of Salisbury, argued that counsellors had not just the right, but the responsibility to speak frankly to rulers. The arrival of the printing press in the 15th century was a revolution that transformed expression. Ideas could now spread faster than authorities could contain them. The Protestant Reformation relied on this new technology, with Martin Luther using print to challenge the Catholic Church. Governments and the Church responded with censorship, but the demand for open discussion grew louder. The torch of free speech then passed to England, where it was rocket-boosted. In 1644, John Milton's Areopagitica put the case against licensing laws, insisting that truth was best served by the free clash of ideas rather than official restriction. The Enlightenment of the 17th and 18th centuries gave freedom of speech a powerful intellectual foundation. John Locke stressed the natural rights of individuals, including freedom of thought and belief. Across the Channel in France, Voltaire, though often misquoted, became famous for the idea that one should defend the right of others to speak, even when one disagreed with them. The famed "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it," often attributed to him, is actually an aphorism coined by Evelyn Beatrice Hall to outline his views. Also in France, philosophers Montesquieu and Jean-Jacques Rousseau tied liberty of expression to the wider health of political life. These ideas were carried into law during the revolutions that reshaped the modern world. The English Bill of Rights of 1689 protected free speech within Parliament, and the later French Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen in 1789 proclaimed the free exchange of ideas as a universal principle. As the centre of gravity shifted towards the New World across the Atlantic, following 1776 and all that, freedom of speech became truly codified. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution in 1791 established freedom of speech and of the press as fundamental rights. In the 20th century, the principle was enshrined on a global scale, with Article 19 of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948, although it must be noted that many members of the UN still do not allow free speech. European laws via the European Court of Human Rights also enshrine the notion through Article 10. This apparently guarantees the right to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without government interference. Although this lofty theoretical pronouncement is not always seen in practice in European countries, particularly in recent years. Of late, in a rising tide of authoritarianism, the last bastion of free speech seems to lie in the United States. Although it depends on who you speak to whether or not this is seen as truly being the case. But that First Amendment to the US Constitution can be seen as the true heir to an idea that began in ancient Athens all those centuries ago. And long may it continue. But that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, share, and most importantly subscribe. And you can also support the channel on Subscribestar via the link in the description or via YouTube Super Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.